Ginkgo, biloba, ginkgo bil. Oh my god. Hello dears, Natalie Locke here with episode 79 of Write the Story, where I give you a prompt and 10 words out of this book so you can write the story. The way I normally do this is I take 5 to 10 minutes to outline kind of just quick glimpses of those 10 words, and then I take about 20 minutes to write the story. Sometimes it takes longer, sometimes it takes less, kind of just depends. It can be interrupted, but it's okay. If this is your first time writing a flash fiction, I highly recommend you set no time limit at all. I usually try to stay around the 600 word range because that's about the space that this accounts for. But as long as you're under 1,000 words, you are qualifying your story as a flash fiction. Let me go ahead and give you the prompt and 10 words for episode 79. A young child makes a discovery. The words to include are Superman, ginkgo biloba, cavern, clicker, aloe, moviegoer, stretch, furry, yardstick, and makeup. Now, you can pause this video and write the story yourself, or you can hear my whole process of how I did it. For the outline, it took me a little bit to figure out what I was going with. I knew because the prompt was a child makes a discovery, I wanted a child to be the primary character. I ended up writing in third person. I wasn't really feeling first person for this, but I enjoy how I wrote it. It almost could be a children's book in a way. It would just take some fleshing out and figuring out. This is kind of more what I would say is a slice of life story, so it's not as moving, as captivating as any of my other stories, but I'm still happy with it. I think it works. The first idea I had was taking that word Superman. Now, I wanted a situation of where the kid has a cloak and the mom calls it a Superman cape, and he's like, I'm not Superman, Mom, duh. And kind of that kid way of where it's like, can't you imagine what I'm imagining? Then from there, I was imagining, well, what is this kid doing? What make-believe situation is happening? And I imagined he is entering a cavern where the treasures were told to be, and then a tentacle comes up and he is ready to strike, but it turns out to be the cat. So I'm kind of giving away my whole story, but I just kept imagining, what about this kid where he is always imagining a quest or an adventure? What is he doing? So even in the car ride with his mother, the signal sound, he calls it the clicker, makes him think that there's a bomb about to go off, and he has to eat all his goldfish before the bomb goes off to save the goldfish. Then when they go to a plant store, it's a jungle, and he has to navigate through the path, and then he finds this one plant that I learned existed today. I had no clue about it, and I'm still struggling to say it, but the ginkgo biloba. The ginkgo biloba, that was like the king of the plants, and it was his next beast to battle. And so I had fun with that part. Then I had to figure out, I decided that the yardstick was going to be his sword. The makeup he put on himself to make it look like he was bruised from battle to play in the part of the character. And at the very end, the surprise he gets involves a movie, and he and his mother join the other moviegoers. So that's how I ended up using each word for this. As you see, for me, it was just like little glimpses of the same character, but like, how is this happening in their world? Now, one of the words was a little bit of a struggle for me, which was stretch. I was thinking, oh, maybe it's a bit of a stretch that the makeup could be bruises on his face or something like that. But then I decided to use stretch as he was actually stretching to put something away. So that word alone is the only one that changed, actually. All the other words stayed the same between my outline and the story. And I'm happy with that. I think I created a good story. And let me go ahead and read to you my version of episode 79. Sir Matthew, face bruised from battles past, climbed into the cavern where the treasure was foretold to be. His steps echoed against the rock walls as his cloak protected him from the cold. He stepped around the seawater shore just as a tentacle slithered from beneath the surface. Sir Matthew wasn't afraid. He lifted his sword above his head, ready to strike down. Matthew, don't you dare hit the cat. Matthew's mother stood in the doorway, her hands on her hips. I wasn't gonna, Mom, I promise. I was just pretending Gabby was a squid from the depths of the ocean, Matthew said. Did you get into my makeup again, or did you hit yourself with the yardstick? His mother asked as she grabbed his cloak and began wiping his face before he could answer. So, who was Superman fighting today? I'm Sir Matthew, not Superman, Mom, Matthew said as his eyes drooped with each wipe. Well, would Sir Matthew like to accompany me on my quest for an aloe plant, and maybe even a surprise afterwards? Matthew's mom raised her eyebrows. Matthew nodded feverishly as he quickly untied his cloak from his neck and ran to his closet and began putting his shoes on. In the car, Matthew sat quietly in the back seat, eating some goldfish and drinking his water. His mother glanced in the rearview mirror now and again. Matthew, however, was on a quest for an aloe plant. First, they had to fast travel to the store. But wait, there was a clicking sound while his mother was at a dragon crossing. The goldfish in Matthew's hands had to be protected at all costs before the clicker signaled the bomb would go off. The last 10 goldfish found safety in Matthew's mouth. Matthew, how many times have I told you, don't stuff your mouth too full, you could choke, his mother said as she turned left, and the clicking stopped. Matthew smiled as he stretched to put the now empty bag in the driver's seat pocket. Mission accomplished. His mother parallel parked in front of the plant shop. As they stepped inside, Matthew entered the jungle. There were plants with prickles, plants that were furry. They were only furry to entice someone to pet them. Matthew didn't succumb to their cuddly facade. Then Matthew found the king of the plants, the one he'll have to battle when he has his sword. The ginkgo biloba, and right next to it was its personal doctor, the aloe plant. His mother grabbed and paid for the aloe plant that she set out to buy. As she put the plant in the back seat, Matthew climbed into the car. Wait, she said. Did you forget about your surprise? Matthew was puzzled. His mother pointed over her shoulder to the sign above the theater. Excalibur, the Second Rising. Matthew leapt out of the vehicle as if it was on fire. His mother laughed as she reached for his hand to cross the road as they joined the other moviegoers. This story was so much fun to write because I was constantly trying to imagine what stakes were going to be at play here in Matthew's mind, where just sitting at a stoplight was waiting at a dragon crossing. Like, I wanted something to constantly be on point every single time that Matthew was doing something. And I adored that, like the imagination of a child. It was so much fun to write. And then the fact that the playfulness between him and his mother, like sometimes his mother was like, oh my god, you got into my makeup, and then other times she was like, so who's Superman fighting, you know? And so she's engaged, but she's probably not engaged as someone would be if they were actually playing the part with him. And I do fear for the cat Gabby, but I'm assuming the cat isn't too afraid of him because she didn't actually go running at any point. And maybe that's something I should work on, is like what happened to the cat, because he was about to hit her technically, but he said he wasn't going to, and I like to believe him, but even right now as I say it, I have a feeling he would have at least snapped the yardstick like next to her, pretending he was chopping a tentacle. Kids at that age, I don't even know what age he is, I'm assuming maybe like 7 or 8, just like constantly playing and such, and I love the creativity. It was actually fun to try to think of like, what is the movie that he wants to go see, and I was trying to think of like Avalon. I was trying to think of play off of like a well-known medieval story, so we'll see how that goes. Regarding what I need to work on, I'm still trying to figure that out. This story, I think it jumps around quickly. I think it could be jarring for the reader. I maybe need to work on my transitions to show like, okay, we're playing, and then we're at the car. And I think actually I did pretty good from he's playing, the mother asks him if he wants to go. He's like, sweet, yes, puts his shoes on, and then they're in the car. Because, and I started that line of in the car, Matthew's sitting in the back seat. So I kind of like set the scene again. But I feel like going into the store, it wasn't as smooth of a transition. I mean, I did say, um, I kind of gave a little bit of a pause of like his mother parallel parked in front of the plant shop as they stepped inside. Matthew entered the jungle, so I feel like I did kind of help paint the picture, but I could have also done better. So I feel I need to work on my transition. And what ended up being 521 words, I still have room to flesh out those scene changes and work on those a little bit more, because that's something when you are writing a novel that you gotta work on a little bit more. And especially in book one therapy sessions, I didn't really have to change scenes that much. I was really in one setting, and it was the dialogue guided most of the direction, and there was stories being told of what happened between sessions or what happened in the main character's childhood. Whereas book two is some chapters are going to be set in a therapy office, but I'm also going to be jumping back in time. And so I'm going to be dealing with these scene changes a little bit more. So this is something I definitely need to work on in my flash fictions of changing a scene a little bit. I'll get there. We'll see how it works out. I think I did okay this time, but I'm also a little close to the story, so I can't really fully speak on that. I think my favorite line, and I wish I could pick one. I might pick one and actually post it on Instagram, since I always post on Instagram my favorite lines for my flash fictions to share with everybody. But my favorite line here is a little difficult because there was a lot of sections I really enjoyed in this. The sections I enjoyed were any time that I set the scene of here's what's really happening, but then here's what's happening in Matthew's head. So I like the opening where Sir Matthew is bruised from battles past and his steps echo in the cavern and the cloak around him is keeping him warm. And then a tentacle comes up and he's ready to strike with his sword, which turns out to be a yardstick. I enjoyed that. And then again, when they're in the car, I say, Matthew, however, was on a quest for the aloe plant. First, they had to fast travel because the car is better than walking. But wait, there was a clicking sound while his mother was at a dragon crossing. Like, I loved these creativity moments. And I'm wondering, and this is where feedback would come into play if I was sharing this with beta readers or alpha readers, is if my makeup scenario matches the reality of what Matthew is going through. If the reader can realize, oh, they're at a stoplight, because just a little bit later, his mother told him while she's turning left, don't fill up your mouth, you're going to choke, and the clicking stopped from what he was working on. So things like that, we'll see. I don't know. I'm intrigued, but that was kind of my favorite part, the taking a reality and looking at it through the lens of make-believe. It's fun. Even if it's not good or whatever, it was still fun, and I feel like I was still able to work on things that I need to work on, which is transitioning and rewriting reality, because that's pretty much what writing is rewriting reality. It's just how realistic am I going to be, or how realistic is my story going to be? Is there a fantasy aspect? Because this could almost be a fantasy. If I remove the fact that Matthew is making it all up, this could very well be a fantasy too. So we'll see. I don't know. I'm enjoying it. I hope you enjoyed this writing prompt, or whatever passion you have, and I hope you continue to find enjoyment in your passions every single day, every week, every month, and every year.